What's up, guys, and welcome back to the infamous project. So today is pretty exciting because you've pretty much wrapped up all of the interior and wiring and all of the little nitty-gritty tasks that go along with putting your fox body back together. We're now at the stage that we can get going on our drivetrain. So we've pulled out the 347 stroker and the transmission, which everything is still bolted together. And this is exactly how it came out of the car back in 2019. So it's been a long journey, but that journey has been tremendously exciting. It's been pretty rewarding, up to date, and I'm really excited to get this car buttoned up, and I'm determined to drive it before the end of the 2021 season. Motor sitting here behind me, it's pretty dusty and dirty looking right now. And I do have the specs, or what the so-called specs were, from when the car was actually on the Bring a Trailer auction way back in 2018, I guess. Long before I ever got the car. Might even been 2017 actually. So it's believed to be 347. You can see it's got a deep dish oil pan, one that I haven't actually seen before. This is a lot of these you'd almost swear they're homemade, so I don't know if this is an aftermarket option or if somebody made it up. You can see here now, if you watch, I think it was the first video I ever did on this car, the starter was bad, and there was no way with this sitting in the K-member in the car that I was going to get the starter off without removing the exhaust. And I don't even know at that point with the way that the oil pan is here. So needless to say, I never ended up removing the starter, and bump started the car for the few times that I needed to drive it. And here's that funny starter wire. Like, look at how long this cable is. Like, this would almost run from the front to the back of the car, so you could run your stereo on it, and they didn't even manage to trim that down. Puffing out some dust. So that'll probably get bypassed. We got an ATI damper on it, and found this cool writing here, which I'm not 100% sure what that says. So the paint was actually flaking a little bit, and I saw a little bit of this white writing, so I kept chipping away with a screwdriver. So it looks like it's 30 over, and DECH, not sure what that says. Maybe that was how somebody thought DECH was pronounced back in the day. I really don't know. So how many miles are actually on this motor? It's actually most likely very low. It's just, the car sat and sat and sat and sat, and I know that the gentleman that I got the car off of, he had it on the road a little bit, and then it sat at his place even longer. So it's kind of almost a mystery motor to a certain degree, but we can see that it has some aftermarket injectors, so red tops, which I believe are 30s. We got the GT40 tubular intake. Already got this guy off. I just wanted to see how clean the intake was underneath here. And one other interesting thing, there must be some pretty big rockers on this car, as it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 gaskets stacked. So needless to say, it'd probably be good to invest in some spacer plates or different valve covers, but I'll be pulling them off, and we'll see exactly what's happening there. Interestingly enough, still has a stock throttle body, so I'm going to swap that out for, I think I got a 65 or 70 mil laying around, and we'll get that bolted on there. And other than that, it's pretty much just clean up and dress up. So gonna go ahead, pull all the accessories off. I'm gonna be putting AC back on this car, so I'm gonna be pulling the AC brackets and the compressor off of another motor that I have, and get that bolted on there, so that way it can stay cool and go fast at the same time. And that's pretty much it. So we can get right into things, start pulling all these accessories off. Gonna pull the upper intake manifold off, which will allow us to pull off the valve covers and see exactly what's going on in here. Behind me, the car is starting to look like a car again. And this is where all the excitement starts to kick in, because it's so close at this stage. You know, putting the drivetrain back in really isn't that big of a deal. It's going to be a lot of the cleanup. You know, gonna have to drop the diff, get the diff all cleaned up and painted, and then all the DECH suspension components are gonna have to get cleaned, painted, and potentially powder coated if I have enough time to get them to powder coat. And fingers crossed, by the end of September, this thing will be done and on the road. 15 minutes later, and we got all the accessories torn off the front. This water pump pulley kind of seems to be seized on there, so I'm gonna have to hit that with a hammer. Pulled the spark plug wires off, and a couple of the connectors stayed with the spark plugs, so not sure if someone had cut these down or made them, or if tailors are known to fail. I used to use a lot of tailors back in the day, which, well, this motor was built back in the day, but these will probably end up getting changed because I don't know if I'm going to be sticking with a red wire. We'll see. I don't think I'm going to keep the block red either. Looking at the front side here, a lot of paint's flaking off. You know, poor prep in terms of trying to make this motor look good, and, you know, years of sitting, and especially this cast metal. You know, if it's not prepped up properly, your paint's not going to last very long if you paint it up. So we'll see if I end up taking the pump off, maybe even the timing cover. We'll see how I feel. You know, just, I do want everything looking nice and fresh, but at the same time, if it's not broken, then maybe don't fix it. But one way or another, regardless, we will be getting that all cleaned up. Upper intake came off pretty easy. I didn't even realize that there is a spacer here. So that probably helps accommodate for how high these valve covers are sitting. And I haven't popped these off yet, so gonna see how many layers of gasket come off with them. Now, I know there's a big debate as well about stacking your gaskets like this. And I don't even know if those plates, or those spacer plates that you can buy, were available back in the day. I think a lot of people just would have changed and put aftermarket valve covers on. But some people will tell you that this can lead to you know, leaks in between the layers of gasket. So be curious to know if maybe they put some gasket goo in between them, or how they did this, because, well, at the end of the day, everything is really dry on the block, and doesn't look like there was any leaks. So whatever they did here was working. So I'm gonna go ahead, see if we can get one of these off. There we go. Oh, we got, looks like after layer 2. There we go. There we go. Nice Ford 17s. Ford SVO 17s, I should say. Everything's looking really nice and clean in here, which is good. Everything is super nice and clean in the underside of the valve covers. One thing that I did notice as well, the screen to the PCV is really clean as well, which probably alludes to low miles. So far the story is holding true for this guy. Now you'll notice I did vacuum all of the debris out of the lower intake here before doing this. It's just because, you know, same thing with taping up the ports to the intake. We don't want any loose debris or dirt getting inside this nice clean motor. Well, it looks like we're having a gasket battle here. Let's see. All right. Again, nice and clean. No complaints. And we can see Windsor Junior. So I'll have to do a little bit more research in terms of what the heads are. Clearly they are, they're iron heads. And I'm not sure which cam is in this guy either, but I'm happy with this, no complaints. Got to do a little bit of investigation in terms of what the specs are. I'm gonna have to go through that Bring a Trailer auction. Again, in fact, I can probably pull it up right now on my phone. Here we go. So this auction actually happened on May 22nd, 2017. I was the high bidder at $4,777. Needless to say, the reserve was not met, and I explained this in some of my other videos. It was me going back and forth with the owner for well over a year before I finally got the car. Says that it was originally equipped with AC. Its components were removed upon installation of the new engine. Under the hood, 5-liter V8 was rebuilt by Active Engines and is mated to T5 World Class. BBK headers, Flowmaster dual exhaust, GT40 upper intake, Taylor spark plug wires, Ford Racing brake proportioning valve, 355 rear end. So yeah, the auction actually didn't have the specs. I think it was in a separate email that he had sent me. I'll try and dig those up. But for now, I'm going to go ahead. So the motor mounts are going to come off because I'm going to put new convertible style mounts on it. We'll get that starter off, get the headers unbolted, and that'll pretty much have things looking pretty bare, and I can get to some cleanup and some prep and figure out what color I'm going to paint it and the way forward. So let's get at it. Man, every time I walk up to this car now, I just want to get it on the road. It's just looking so good now that the wheels and tires are on it. But there's a long way to go. So here's the current situation. Put the intake in the parts cleaner tank and tried to get it cleaned up as much as possible. I didn't know how clean it would turn out, but it's going to need some lipstick, so it'll get all scuffed down and we'll get that painted up. You can see all the rest of our parts here, the hoses and the hardware and brackets and exhaust and everything else. And was sitting right back here like this, drinking my Heineken and trying to see how I want to approach this. Now I did start sanding some areas down just to see, you know, how well this paint is stuck on here. So the paint's definitely the best on the pan, on the heads, and the worst on the block and timing cover and water pump. So there's really no easy way to tackle this. And, you know, just sitting back, taking a deep breath, it's like, how far do you want to go? You know, it's, you want to tear it all down? Do I just clean it up the best I can and paint certain components and try and get it cleaned up? Because reality is, once it's in the car, obviously I'm going to change the valve covers, I'll paint the upper intake, and things will look reasonably good. But at the same time, the motor's here, it's out, and it's the best time to just commit and pull off what needs to be pulled off and just do it right. And I just feel like, as much as I'm not trying to achieve perfection with this car, my OCD is just screaming out to me, and it's like I can't put it back in like this. So transmission, or the bell housing and transmission, will come off. I'm going to pull the lower intake manifold, and I'm going to pull the timing cover and water pump off, just because this stuff is going to be such a nightmare to prep and try and get painted up. I'm better off just taking it off. I'll re-gasket stuff, get it all cleaned up, get stuff painted properly, and I'll be happy that I did in the end. You know, like even the injectors, you know, as new as everything is, it's just, you know, sitting and being exposed to some elements. You know, I want to get these all cleaned up and get the rust off and everything else. So gonna go ahead, pull that out, pull the distributor. We'll mark where our rotor is facing, and which is actually pretty straightforward because it's facing this connector here. So I'll use this video to document my position so I can get that set back in when everything is said and done. So I'll go through, I'll just vacuum some stuff off again, just make sure that, again, that as much debris and loose dirt isn't in the way. And we'll pull this stuff off and get it all cleaned up, get it painted, looking fresh, and be happy that it was done in the end. Right? Right. Look at this. All types of lovely formations. I feel like I'm a geologist or something right now looking at all this. So now the next step will be, well, actually I can pull out the distributor, pull off the lower, and we'll look at pulling off the balancer here and getting this timing cover off. I have a little bit of chatter here. Discus Boobard.
Are you talking to yourself?
Camera, bro. Well guys, here we are. Everything is cleaned up, and engine is sitting on a stand. Got all the bolts out for the timing cover, but the pan does need to get dropped down a little bit just to allow the cover to slip out. And I think I'm actually just going to pull the pan off altogether. That'll allow me to clean it up real nice, get it painted. And you know what? We've come along this far. Might as well just rip that guy off. Once the timing cover's off, then we'll be in a position to get everything prepped up and ready for some paint. So not too bad for a Saturday's worth of work, and guess I got a little bit more involved than I was planning on, but I think back, you know, in the back of my mind, pretty sure I knew that this was going to happen. So let's pull all those bolts off for the pan, get that dropped, pull that timing cover off, and see what we got. Oh yeah, look at how nice and clean those internals are. Looks very new. Custom pickup. What do you think, Dad? Is that for me?
Yeah, special delivery.
Nice.
Getting more mail here than I do now, so.
I like how you use that.
Well, I had it with me, so.
So don't let that ugly paint on the outside fool you. Look at how nice and new everything is in here. We got some goods. We got the upper and lower painted, the spacer, balancer all cleaned up, timing cover, thermostat housing, water pump clean. The injectors were all cleaned up and painted. Just got that painted up earlier, and it's looking super fresh and clean. If I can get this up, guys.